To script gameplay events and player progression in the level blueprint, we're going to need some event dispatchers in the actor classes that we use in that level to communicate between what happens in those actor instances and what happens in the level blueprint. First, let's look at how we can add the event dispatchers to the BP key parent. I'm going to open it up here. I'm going to, right here we see a field called event dispatchers. I'm going to add one. I'm going to call it something very generic on interaction complete. This is kind of a one-size-fits-all solution for whenever an actor picks up a key. Anything that is a key logic, really. I'm going to compile and save that. Once you've entered our event dispatcher and created it here in the parent, we can just call it here. So I'm going to drag this out into the event graph. I'm going to choose call. So once start events on taken is called, the event dispatcher sends out a message to any possible events with this name, call and interaction complete, available either in the level blueprint or possibly even in other actors. It's worth noting that there are some properties that can be set, some variables that can be passed through an event dispatcher to any bound events. If we select the event dispatcher here, we can see the possibility of adding inputs, including variables. Like you could pass the player variable that actually interacted with this key or that kind of thing. But for what we're doing, we don't really have any need to add anything special to this. This is a relatively simple prototype. Next, let's add a event dispatcher to the parent class, BP Interactive Parent. I'll have to handle this a little bit differently. And what we'll do is we'll add the event dispatcher here to the parent class, and we'll call it again generically interaction complete. Compile and save this. But we're actually going to make the calls of this event dispatcher in each individual child because there's certain cosmetic differences between the parent and some of the child classes, maybe even some timing issues. So we're going to actually call that in some of the child classes. So we have a few different child classes of the BP Interactive Parent, but if your project gets larger and larger, you may find that you want to use the reference viewer to find all your sort of hierarchies of parents and children. So you can right click on our interactive parent here. You can select the reference viewer and you can find totally accurate reference really of everything you have. So here we have our BP Interactive Parent. We can see that it has three children, the barricade, the gear machine, and the switch. So we're going to add the event dispatcher calls to each of those three children. Now I will call the on interaction complete event dispatcher in the BPC barricade. So this is our event for start events on interact. When they're done, we'll call the event right here. Call on interaction complete. Hook that up. Compile and save this. Next, we'll go to the BPC gear machine here. Same thing, when event starts on interact is false, we want it to happen at the end of this thread here. So we'll do on interaction complete. Compile and save this. Lastly, we'll do an event dispatcher on the BPC switch. And on this one, we'll do it, actually we'll add it to a node here at the end of this timeline. If you recall, BPC switch has a quick like up and down movement when it gets interacted with. So we can do right here, if we drag off a direction on the timeline, we can do a switch on E timeline direction. It's an enum switch. And when it's finished in essentially the forward direction, that's what we want here, we can add the call right here, connect it there. So compile and save that. And that does, that adds the event dispatchers to each and all of our actors used in the level. So we can now use these to bind to events in the level blueprint.